Hello, and welcome once again to the Talk of the Terrace podcast with me, your host, Mike McPhail. And as always, I'm joined by my good friend and my co-host, it's Harvey Carter-Hill. Harvey, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. If anyone's listening and watching now, we've also got Deck Wilson making an appearance. We only bring on guests called Declan. So if your name's Deck or ends with Rice, that'd be great. You're on next week. But yeah, Deck, we've brought you on because you brought what we thought was a great topic to discuss. So how are you doing? And tell us about your topic.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, boys. Thanks for having me. So Harvey asked about some interesting topics that we could have a chat about in the footballing world, and I immediately thought of sort of impact signings that have happened in the Premier League, inspired by my club and Bruno Fernandes and the impact he's had ever since he joined Man United. Not like the players who have come in and have a fantastic career. I'm talking about players that have come in, hit the ground running and changed the club's fortunes pretty much immediately. I thought it'd be interesting to have a chat through those sort of players and what the ultimate Premier League 11 of impact signings would be. So, obviously Bruno is one of mine, but Harvey, any thoughts on this?
Yes, yeah, I've picked out a bit of a easy formation for myself. I was struggling for left and right backs, I'm not going to lie. So I've gone 3-4-3. Many people that listen to this will know that I do love a stacked midfield, and that's what I've gone for. But I'll start in goal, and I think there's a few here. There's a few players that have been outstanding, but for me, Dean Henderson, when Sheffield United came up, was one hell of a signing. Even though he was on loan, he only conceded 33 goals for a team that had just been promoted. They finished ninth, and he came up with 13 clean sheets and 97 saves in the season. Just some phenomenal stats, reflexes of a cat. And I think if it wasn't for him, they probably would have gone down last season rather than this season, to be honest. But yeah, I'd like to hear what Mikey's got in goal. I'm sure it might be something to do with Chelsea, but you never know.
Well, thanks. But I've gone for the same formation as you, Harv. Again, I found it quite difficult to think of left back and right back specifically. I think there isn't many that I can think of. I know Declan spoke and he said that he's got a couple, so fortunately he's going to bring some of them to the table. But like you, I've got Dean Henderson on my goalkeepers list. I've got a few goalkeepers down. I've got Dean Henderson. I thought his impact was very big. Obviously, you can tell from this season they haven't changed much other than Dean Henderson leaving and a few poor signings.
Dodgy Chelsea loan signing. Yeah.
Well, yeah. But other players in goal, I've got a Man United goalkeeper that maybe other people could have, but I've actually gone for Ederson at Manchester City for my goalkeeper, because I think when Pep came in, he obviously tried to look for that ball passing goalkeeper that he likes. So he actually brought in Claudio Bravo from Barcelona. It didn't work. He infamously got rid of Joe Hart, who won the title a couple of times and was England number one at the time, and he got rid of him and brought in Ederson, and straight away Ederson made a difference, didn't he? Within a few games he kept several clean sheets, got a kick in the head from Mane, went on to win the double with the Premier League and the EFL Cup, one of 4 in a row that Man City have now gone on to win. So, and then the next year obviously won the league again, so they won the league double, the first team to do so since I believe Manchester United in the late 2000s when they won the treble. But yeah, Ederson came in, and I just think that was a big start of Man City's current era of dominance. And yeah, I'd like to see what Deck here has for his formation and goalkeeper.
Well, I think it's quite interesting because you've both picked goalkeepers there that have not even made it to my list. Dean Henderson, I think, is a really interesting shout. Ederson, we'll come to him, I suppose. But I've gone for, it's quite a top heavy 4-2-4, or we could do it as a 4-3-3. But my goalkeepers, being a Man United fan, it pains me to admit any Liverpool players, but I did have Alisson on the list as a potential, purely because when he came in, they've then won the Champions League and the Premier League, and it's almost as if like he was a bit of a missing piece for that club. But my one, I was racking my brains and thinking about the history of the Premier League, and Jens Lehmann, when he came in at Arsenal, they became the Invincibles.
Yeah,
so to have a goalkeeper. he came in, and obviously he was a bit of a nutter, wasn't he? But he was such a sort of
Still is, isn't he?
All goalkeepers are, aren't they?
He was like horribly mad goalkeeper who came with this massive personality, this massive presence, and for his first season to be invincible, I mean, what impact that is. You know, what better can you do?
Yeah, he didn't even make my list. I don't just completely went over me. I had Peter Schmeichel and all them lot. I forgot Lehmann. That's embarrassing.
I had Peter Schmeichel. I wasn't sure if that was Lehmann's first season, to be fair. I didn't realise it was.
You'd have to Google it.
But yeah, no, I see what you're saying there. But I'm quite surprised you didn't go for Peter Schmeichel, if I'm honest.
I had Van der Sar over Peter Schmeichel. Van der Sar was the third goalkeeper on my list. But I had to Google it because I thought he came in a bit of a lean spell, and he did. I think he came in and United didn't win the league until a couple of years after he came in. So, again, you can't really argue that he's probably one of the greatest keepers United have had up there, which, well, I actually think better than Schmeichel. But he didn't have an immediate impact. You can't say, Harvey's face there, he was better than Schmeichel.
No, I mean, I love Peter Schmeichel. I do like Peter Schmeichel. I wasn't a massive fan of United growing up, but just because they were great, you know, you always hate the great teams, don't you? That you can't stand seeing other people winning. And he was a massive part of United winning for a period of time. But he was quality. But yeah, Van der Sar as well. And then Lehmann, I do think you got a good point there. All of them, I don't think you could really complain about sort of picking them as a top goalkeeper, could you?
I think it's interesting the two that you both called. I think actually Harvey, the one of Dean Henderson, because if you took out Lehmann and if you took out Ederson from City, I still think City and Arsenal, those teams were really, really strong. And obviously, probably would they have had the same level of success? Maybe, probably not. You know, probably doing them injustice, probably not. But I think you could stick a decent keeper in at one of those clubs, and they would have probably still won the league. But Dean Henderson, I haven't thought of him at all, but you can see his impact going both ways. One way for how good he was for them in the Premier League, but then the second way that you mentioned, how they've absolutely fallen off a cliff since he's left.
Yeah. I mean, they brought in Ramsdale, didn't they? I mean, he went down with Bournemouth when Henderson kept them up. I just think he did such a tremendous job, facing so many shots a game as well, and still managing to 13 clean sheets for a promoted team. It's phenomenal. I mean, I don't know. I didn't know who got the most clean sheets last season. Probably Ederson, or Alisson, one of the two. But yeah, still 13 for a newly promoted team. I think that is phenomenal. Yeah, absolutely. Mikey, you back three?
Well, I'll give you one of them. Shall I start with? Because if I say all three, me and you may have a couple similar half because we've both got three centre backs. So I'll start off with one of my centre backs. He's a Manchester United legend, probably one of the best centre backs of the Premier League era, and that's Nemanja Vidic. I can't imagine you two maybe do have him, can't have him, but alongside John Terry and Rio Ferdinand, to me, those are the three best centre backs in the Premier League history. And it hurts because two of them are Man U players. None of them obviously were in that invincible Arsenal team, but I just think all three of them were better than the likes of, was it Kolo Touré in that centre-back partnership with Sol Campbell, maybe? I can't remember.
Yeah,
but I know
individually, those three are outstanding,
how Kolo Touré's in an invincible team is beyond me. But yeah, obviously he signed in 2006, and Man U had gone like a record 3 years since the Premier League started without winning the title, because it was Arsenal got it invincibles and two back-to-back Chelsea Premier League triumphs, and then obviously they had to get someone new in to partner Rio. I believe Rio was already there, and they got Nemanja Vidic, and he just came in and straight away won the title 3 times on the bounce after that as well. So they won the title that season in 06-07, and then went on to win it a preceding 2 more times. And he was just incredible when he's the reason, like when players like Drogba were having a bit of fun against the bigger teams like Man United, I just didn't see him being afraid of someone like Rio Ferdinand, where he could easily outmuscle Ferdinand. But then Vidic came in, and you saw the battles that Drogba and Vidic had, and it was quite incredible from my perspective. But yeah, I think Vidic has to be in there. Declan, do you want to give us one of your fullbacks, maybe, since you're the only one with fullbacks? It'd be interesting.
Well, I must admit, I've absolutely scraped the barrel for fullbacks. But honestly, I'm quite open to the idea of the 3 at the back. So I'll give you my 2 fullbacks.
Yeah.
one was from your boys Chelsea when Mourinho came over and he had that first impact. He brought with him Paulo Ferreira, who at the time nobody even knew. I remember, I think I was doing my paper round back when Mourinho came, and I remember seeing all the signings happen. And it was the days before, seeing it all on Sky Sports and getting all your updates and seeing all these players that were signing. And Paulo Ferreira, it was like, who on earth is he? And then he actually went on to be a pretty key part in that team. Him and Ashley Cole on either side. So he was the only right back I could really think of. And then on left back, in a similar vein, and my team has got quite a few players from this team, but Christian Fuchs at Leicester.
Yeah. Wow.
They signed him in the summer between, obviously they nearly got relegated, didn't they? And then the year after they win the league, and he was one of the players they signed alongside some other players who shored that defence up. If you remember, he threw in quite a few assists, and he became a bit of a cult hero at Leicester. So he's made it to my list.
Did he manage to bag a couple of free kicks or something? Did he take a few free kicks, like a bit of a power driver?
I remember seeing a volley from outside the box from Christian Fuchs, which was pretty incredible, if I remember.
Yeah, I think that does ring a bell.
But yeah, he obviously, I think he trademarked the slogan "No Fuchs Given" with his name in the middle. He actually trademarked that and has a clothing brand and stuff like that, which is insane. And he just seems like a genuine guy. But yeah, I actually didn't think of Fuchs. Paulo Ferreira was someone I looked at because I looked at that Chelsea team when we won the league, and I was looking for all these players, like all the players we signed. And Paulo Ferreira, I saw his name, and I was just like, oh, did he do anything that season? But yeah, he probably made sure that William Gallas didn't play right back, which is probably a win for Chelsea. It clearly worked.
I think he came in, he suited Mourinho's style, didn't he? And he came in, he knew Mourinho's game. So I reckon he had a good impact on that team in terms of helping Mourinho have the impact on that team that he had. He probably, it was managers always like to have a few generals in the team, don't they, who understand them and get them completely. And I think him and Carvalho, he brought them in both in that.
Yeah, he brought in them two, and then he obviously got Thiago Mendes in, I believe, but Thiago didn't start. Like the other two were straight away stalwarts. And then obviously a few years later, because Deco was at that Porto team, he went to Barcelona. We ended up getting Deco a bit later down the line. So, and I think that was a Mourinho signing maybe in 2008-9 when he came back. Or was it? I don't know. I don't think it was actually. But yeah, Harvey, what you got for your centre backs?
I've got 2 United, 1 Liverpool. In terms of centre backs, I'm going to throw the first one out there. Jaap Stam. He came in the 98-99 season, and I mean, you know what that season was, don't you? So,
good one.
I think the one to have an impact like that, to come in your first season and win the treble. I mean, I know Deck spoke about Lehmann and the Invincibles in your first season. I think to come in and win the treble as well has got to be close to being on a same level. Just an animal. You'd sort of look at him in the lineup and go, "Nah, you're all right. Don't fancy it. I'm going to go and have a look at someone else. I'll go and pick on Dennis Irwin or someone like that." He was quality. Bit of a falling out, I think, was why he left. Was it?
There was some things behind the scenes weren't too happy about. Fergie got rid of him for being a bit of an ego, I believe, but still hell of a player, absolute hell of a player.
Yes, yeah, and to be fair, you come in, win the treble in your first season. I think that's one hell of an impact to have, especially at the back as well. When you've got to be tight, you've got to make sure you're not conceding. You're probably nicking a few 1-0s, and being at the back, he's scrapping for everything, isn't he? That's the sort of guy you need when you do that sort of thing. So yeah, he's gone in there
alongside him as well. He wasn't like we talked about like Terry and Carvalho and Rio and Vidic, but Jaap Stam had Ronnie Johnson, David May. He had players who you look back and they've not nobodies. Obviously, they've achieved massive success, but they're not household names, are they? So obviously, he carried.
No,
probably in some people's eyes a disservice to Jaap Stam because he didn't have that. Everyone talks about these solid defensive partnerships of Rio and Vidic and Terry and Carvalho and people like that. When you think of Jaap Stam, people obviously they don't name a second person. That should just
a man, wouldn't it?
That should just say to you how good the guy was and why he is one of the best. Obviously,
Yeah.
being a bit
Yeah.
young at the time, I didn't get to see him much. So that's where you'll see a lot of my players are people from my lifetime. But you understand when you hear about him, and obviously what you've just said, Harv, it's incredible. And that's not just any treble, that's the treble, because obviously
that is the
one.
one.
Whether Edison won the domestic treble in his first or second season. I've got it written down domestic treble, but I think that was his second season. But that's nothing, is it? The Prem, EFL Cup, and the FA Cup. But the FA Cup, the Premier League, and the Champions League for that Man U team was
that. Yeah. I'll stick my next centre back in there as well. Rio Ferdinand. I think he had a massive impact on that United team. 02-03 came in, won the Prem title, shored up that defence again. I'm trying to think of who his partners might have been back then. Don't know if you'd help out on that one, Deck. I don't think he had a big name at the time when he came in. I feel like Laurent Blanc retired at the end of that season. I think he was a fairly big name, but he was in his mid-30s, if not slightly more. So I'm not sure on that one. But to come into a United team so young, so fresh, you've got, I think he was 22, was he, when he came in?
I'd imagine so. Big fee as well.
Yeah, big fee, highest for a defender at the time. To come in, prove yourself at the biggest club in England at the time and possibly the world, and win a Prem title. I think that speaks volumes as well. He was quality. I hated watching him. If I was going to watch a game, I'd be like, Rio Ferdinand, this is going to be boring going United's way. It's just going to be all attack for United because he was just so good. He was brilliant. Really do think he was one of the best.
Great.
Yeah, really was. He had speed as well for a centre back. He could get himself out of dodgy situations, couldn't he? I think he was quality. But yeah, Deck, who have you got a centre back?
I've got a bit of a curveball for my main centre half. I mean, there's a few other names that I considered. Vidic was on the list. Carvalho I've mentioned. Company didn't have an immediate impact, but I think I suppose that's why I ruled him out in the end, because the impact he had on City was big, but not immediate. Van Dijk, for the same reasons of what I said, Alisson earlier, came in. He's changed fortunes of that team. But the biggest one for me that I could think of was Robert Huth at Leicester City, because he came in on loan for the second half of the season when they were in the relegation zone. And he was a massive part of shoring that defence up with Wes Morgan. So they stayed up, and then they just carried that through. They've signed him permanently, and they carried that through and won the league. And again, if we're just talking immediate impact, to come in and change a defensive team a team's defence, from being relegation candidates, looking like they were definitely down, to then winning the league the next season on a bedrock of a real strong defence. He's not, he's played at other clubs. I don't think he'll ever go down as a Premier League great, but what an impact he had.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. That back line, I think the whole back line was quality at Leicester. I think they all were really good. All played the part in that sort of bodies on the line sort of type of defending, I think, wasn't it, Mike?
Yeah, it was great. And obviously Robert Huth's one of only a few players that have ever won the Premier League with two separate teams. Obviously won it at Chelsea, but he was never a big name at Chelsea. He was never a starting centre back when he was at Chelsea. And to go to someone like Leicester, he didn't go on and do something what I'm sure some of us have got with another Leicester player in our team, where he won the league that season. If it wasn't for Robert Huth, like Declan said, another player in my team wouldn't have been in my team, because he probably either wouldn't have signed for Leicester, he definitely wouldn't have won the title the next season. So because of Robert Huth's impact and signing for Leicester, and then subsequently continuing his form throughout that season to keep them in I think it was 9 games left in the season, they somehow got out of relegation, and then to go on and win the league the next season is just incredible. So yeah, I've overlooked Robert Huth, I think, in my team. Haven't even got him in my. I just completely didn't think of him in that vein when I was he came up when I was doing searches and looking for people's names, and it when he signed was in the 2014-15 season. So I just completely ignored the fact that I forgot that when I was researching it, that they nearly got relegated that season, because you just don't expect it, do you, them to go and win the league the next season. I've got the likes of Ricardo Carvalho down as a player that's on my team, but he's not in my team. He's an honourable mention. I'll tell you my last two centre backs, because obviously Harvey, you've got one more to mention, and Declan's got one more to mention. I've got Virgil van Dijk, as everyone's mentioned. I think he has to get mentioned. I know, Harvey, you're a bit out there with your players, so he probably isn't in your team, and you've sometimes.
Do you know what? I'll put it. He is my third centre back.
He is.
Yeah, Liverpool were going nowhere. He turned up. They got into the Champions League. Brought them into the Premier League in terms of the top four. Got them into there, and then got them to the final of the Champions League. I know they lost, but they were going nowhere. Let's be honest.
I mean, he was a January transfer signing. That's why I've put him in there, because I think his impact came halfway through a season. Obviously, January 2018, he signed, and his debut goal, if you want a big impact, his debut, he scored a goal to win 2-1 against Everton, against their Merseyside rivals in the FA Cup. So if you're going to score in your debut for Liverpool, and it's going to be against Everton in the last minutes to win 2-1, then I think that's
not a bad way.
That's a pretty good impact to start your career off with that team. And then my third centre back, I wanted to get a Chelsea player in there, and I was going to put Ricky Carvalho, but I think he's a bit more obvious. I've actually got Thiago Silva, because I've seen Chelsea last season. We were very defensively frail, and we were very poor last season defensively. We were very good attacking. Obviously, Frank Lampard took over, and he was a manager that maybe shouldn't have left, maybe should have been given more time, but he clearly didn't have a defensive mindset at all, and had no idea how to organise a defence, which subsequently left to players like Fikayo Tomori now going out on loan to AC Milan because he didn't know what to do with them. But Thiago Silva got brought in, and he's actually played 36 games for Chelsea in total. And 36. He's 36, and he's played 28 games in total for Chelsea, only conceding 17 goals. Being 28
half of them against West Brom.
Yeah. Well, when you think about that, 5 goals against West Brom in that one game as well, and then a couple in the other one. Yeah. But he's kept 16 clean sheets in 28 games. So he's conceded 17 goals in 12 games, considering the other 16 were clean sheets. That includes clean sheets against the likes of Manchester City in the FA Cup when we won 1-0, Liverpool, both ties against Atletico Madrid. He only played in one of them, actually, didn't he? Because he was celebrating in the second one.
Yeah.
But 16 clean sheets in 28 games for a 36-year-old. We're in the FA Cup final. After tomorrow, we'll be in the Champions League final. So
I think the only Chelsea team that's going in the Champions League final is the women's team, because they went through it the weekend. We'll that one.
Yeah, super Frank Kirby. But no, I think he's just come in, and I've been afraid of watching the likes of Rudiger and Zuma and Christensen last season, and even tomorrow. I think I watched them all, and some of them look a bit donkeyish. They're falling over themselves, and they just don't look like.
There was no leader.
Yeah, and I'm scared to watch them sometimes. When I see Thiago Silva play, I just look at him, and he's so composed, even at his age, and it's so great to watch. And it instills me with confidence that, okay, if we're going to play the ball out from the back, we've got Thiago Silva there to do that, and I'm happy with that. And I think
it calms the other players as well. Zuma's a better player next to him, and I think he's a really good shout, to be honest. I hadn't thought of him at all, but he has come in and he's been ultra calm, ultra cool. He's had a couple of mistakes, but I think he has certainly made defence a lot stronger than what it was.
Yeah, we'd be a lot worse off without him this season. But yeah. So who have you got then, Deck, for your final player in your back four?
Well, I'm in agreement with both of you. I say I'm a very anti-Liverpool person because of being a Man United fan. But it pains me to say, but Van Dijk, when he did come in, was just incredible. I mean, what you've both said is completely true. And I'd much rather, actually, I've been convinced on the Thiago Silva argument. I'll put Thiago Silva in ahead of Van Dijk just so I don't have him in. But he brought an attitude to Liverpool, didn't he, as well? They always talk about how Henderson and all these players are Klopp's generals on the pitch, but Van Dijk, I mean, I'd imagine if I played in a football team with Van Dijk, you'd have to play your best every single game. And so he'll just sort of look at you in that way he's got, and you'd be terrified. So I just think he brings that kind of ultra professionalism. I remember Peter Crouch talking about Steven Gerrard and when he first joined Liverpool. I imagine Van Dijk's like that in terms of on the training pitch. You have to give everything, and he just comes across as that kind of personality, and that's what's took them to that next level.
And I think especially this season with his injury
he's brought that winner's mentality, hasn't
he? Yeah. With his injury against Everton as well, I think it's shown this season how defensively frail they are without him, and how much of a huge drop off it is to go to the likes of Joe Gomez when he did play, even though he was injured. But anyone, it doesn't matter who it is in that Liverpool squad.
Yeah,
it's like Van Dijk is just a huge drop off. So which one of you lads wants to start off with our midfields? Harvey?
well, as I came up with the thing, obviously the one I mentioned at the start is Bruno Fernandes. That's what made me think of these impact signings, because I'm sure we can get the stats up here, but Bruno Fernandes, when he came in at Man United in late in that transfer window in January, after the last few years of being a Man United fan, it was painful, you know, to have grown up with all that success and with a team that entertained you, to then go to watching Van Gaal and watching Mourinho's United and just not being entertained and not having anyone to sort of excite you, to then suddenly having this winner come in who was just straight away head and shoulder. I remember his first game where he'd pass the ball quicker. Everyone else would just like take a touch, then pass it. Bruno just came in. It was quick passing. You could see he had this attitude and this sort of charisma about him that you've then seen with the amount of goals and assists, but just the way he influences everyone. And we've gone them from a team that is fighting for, you know, Europa League or fourth, trying to get to that in those sort of seasons, to then being, I don't think we're far off from being a team that can challenge for the title. So, and that's all down to, I think, his impact that he's had in that short space of time.
Well, yeah, he is second best team in the league, hands down, isn't you? Like,
before he turned up, I think you were an Arsenal where Wenger was keeping them in the top four. That's what you were doing before he turned up. In my eyes, you were Wenger's last years at Arsenal, where you were lucky to get in the top four. You had some decent players, but nothing like what he is. And he's come in, and I think he's brought the best out of everyone, like not just in his position, but everyone. He's gone into that changing room, told, if you don't want to win or whatever, you see it in the papers, if you don't want to win or whatever, you're not going to be here. And he's come out and said that himself. To be honest, I'm not a United fan, but I don't know how he's not your captain.
Yeah.
I honestly don't.
Yeah. He looks like a leader, you know, and I suppose they spent so much money on Harry Maguire. Maybe that's why they've had to put him as a captain. I don't know. But anyway, he's certainly a leader. He doesn't have to have the captain's armband to be that leader. He just seems he just oozes just class. And it's a name that we'll probably come back to later on, certainly from my side anyway. But it's like when Eric Cantona came in. It's a player who is just so obviously better than everybody else that just drags you up and drags you with him. And I can imagine if you're in the United sort of in the youth team and things like that at the minute, to see a player like him, it must be exciting.
I'll jump in there then, Half, because obviously I don't think you have him, but I've got Bruno Fernandes because it's impossible not to have him. I think as soon as I heard about what Dec's idea was for the podcast in impact signings, him amongst one or two other names were the first ones I thought of. Just coming in January, and obviously getting Manchester United into the top four. It was a tough top four fight. You know, it's Manchester United, Chelsea, and Leicester on the last game of the season last year, and Bruno Fernandes coming in 14 games, 8 goals and 7 assists in the Premier League is just ridiculous. That's 15 goal involvements in 14 games. And I'll be one of the first people to admit I was wrong when he first came in. I was like, I don't think he'll make it straight away. Coming from the Portuguese
no one expected
league,
it.
Coming from the Portuguese league is hard. Maybe in a couple of seasons he could have elevated himself to the level he is now, but straight in, came in, bang, bang. He was just doing everything. And I watched Man U games, and I'm not an avid supporter of Paul Pogba. I think he's a bit lazier, and I know he's got class. I know what Paul Pogba's got class, but what Bruno Fernandes has is not just class, it's the attitude. I watch him and I'm like, I'd love him in my Chelsea team. You know, even though I've got the likes of Mason Mount and players like that in my team, I would want Bruno Fernandes to somehow get in my Chelsea team, because when you watch him play, he's a winner. He goes on that pitch and he reminds you of the Manchester United players from the Ferguson era. He's a player that Roy Keane never says a bad word about, and when Roy Keane can't find a bad word about a player, and I'm pretty sure Roy Keane can look at Bruno Fernandes and be like, I'd love to play with that guy. I'd love him in front of me if I was at Manchester United, because you know Roy Keane wouldn't take any crap from anybody, and he'd not get it from Bruno Fernandes. I'm pretty sure if Roy Keane misplaced a pass, Bruno Fernandes would be someone that would happily tell him that was absolute garbage. You know,
he just looked like a brave boy.
Yeah, I know. And that's why he has to be in everyone's team. But obviously, Harvey, you have a Gollum. So did you want to start us off with one of your midfielders?
Yes. Now I'm going with. There's no way any of you boys have got this guy. I don't think there is any chance. Nobby Solano, when he came to Newcastle, he's the throwback. Deck's laughing, but Deck knows. Deck knows that Newcastle team. Nobby Solano, Laurent Robert. There were some quality players in that Newcastle team. They were. I wouldn't have said they were a massive force, but Nobby Solano, first season at Newcastle. Bearing in mind they weren't really a traditional top four. They were lucky to get top 6 or 7. I think they'd sort of petered off. 7 goals and 9 assists. I think that's probably a better season than Pogba's ever had in a United shirt. Deck, I think, has he ever got those figures in a United shirt? Like in one season, I don't know if he has. He might have come close.
Premier League half.
Yeah, just the Premier League. Those figures.
Just the Premier League, then. Yeah, I think that's probably topping Pogba.
Yeah, and then he also helped them finish 4th in the league. A Newcastle team finished 4th, and I mean he's come in from out of nowhere. Really, everyone's sort of gone, "Who the hell's this kid?" I think he's gone into Newcastle. I think they made a couple of other decent signings, but that one stands out. 37 appearances. He only missed 1 game all season. And when you talk about centre mids getting you goals and assists, I think probably one of the best at it was Lampard. But those figures, 7 goals and 9 assists from centre mid, I think you'd be happy with that pretty much nowadays. In terms of how he played back then, he wasn't like a Fernandes where he could go forward and drive forward. He was a centre mid going up and down, box to box. Everyone played 4-4-2, so you had to do the legwork as well. I think that also has got to come into it. And I think his price tag was quite cheap. So an impact also financially as well. I don't think he wasn't a massive, we've gone and spent 15, 20 mil. It was under 10 million. And I think you spend under 10 million and you get 7 goals and 9 assists and only miss 1 game. Get your team to 4th when really Newcastle were never a Champions League team at that time. I think is pretty impressive, to be honest.
I think it's a great shout. I hadn't thought of Solano at all. I must admit, I've just Googled to see just what his impact was, and yeah, he's only 2.4 million. Fantastic stat here, though. He has started his own band in Newcastle. Where's that?
I feel like it's the lads not out are allowed now.
He's now an adopted Geordie, so he's obviously he's his own salsa band named the Geordie Latinos. So just for that reason, that's a massive impact on the Newcastle Latinos.
I feel like we need to get some of that on. If
well,
I'm honest.
That's ruined my fun fact for the day. To be fair, I had that down.
Yeah.
Wow. No.
Yeah. What an impact?
Massive impact to get like you say Newcastle to 4th position. I mean, it seems mad that they were, they were good for a bit, weren't they, Newcastle? But it's been so long since they were that you kind of forget, don't you?
Yeah, we've seen them get relegated. Yeah. We've seen them get relegated and come back up. That's how bad it went. So yeah, I think he's a good shout in there for me. To be honest, I think I'd take him at a team, and if I was in sort of like anything outside of the top 6, if someone's going to give me those stats, I think most Prem teams would take it right now that aren't in the top 6. To be honest.
Yeah, definitely Spurs. Spurs will take anyone they can get, right? Got to get the Spurs dig in there because I doubt any of us have Spurs players, right?
I did look. Do you know what? I looked at David Ginola,
and
he wasn't quite there. But
I saw David Ginola and Jurgen Klinsmann come up with some decent stats for impact signings, but make it in my team. I'll jump in next though because I'm going to cheat. By the way, guys, with my midfield because the player I've got, I've actually only got 10 players, but the next player I've got counts as 2 because it's N'Golo Kante. Obviously, his debut for Leicester, debut season, he's come into Leicester at £5.6 million after that amazing season, thanks to Rob Hoof, where Leicester stayed in the league, and straight away they go on and win the league. And the key player in that, especially new signings wise, I don't think there's many other players bought. Riyad Mahrez was bought the season before and that, but Kante, 5.6 million to secure Leicester an unbelievable 5,000 to 1 chance at a Premier League title is just incredible. And the fact that he'd done it at Leicester and he had bloody Danny Drinkwater alongside him. He didn't play the first few games. It was Danny Drinkwater and Andy King played the first few games. He then replaced Andy King, and they were just like, why won't we start this guy? And he's so humble as well when you see stories about Kante. But not only that, he was I think he's the first outfield player, or the only outfield player, to win back-to-back league titles with 2 different teams. The only other player to do so was Mark Schwarzer. He was at Chelsea the season before Leicester won the title, but he didn't have an impact on any of them titles. So Kante probably the only player to have an impact. So I've got him again because I couldn't think of an 11th player really. I've got a 3-4-3, I'd say, but I have no left midfielder. But I'll put Kante in centre mid twice and put Bruno out on the left. I'm sure he won't mind because Kante can do everything and Bruno can do what he wants then. But then Kante, when he came to Chelsea, we won the league in 14-15. Straight away we had a similar title defence to what Liverpool are having now. It's absolutely horrendous. I can't remember where we finished. Maybe it was something like 9th or 10th.
He was only just top 10. I think
it was 10th when it was 9th or 10th. I think it may have been 10th. It was absolutely abysmal. And we needed someone to come in and change our team around. And who would have thought we'd see this this little Frenchman from Leicester. And we saw his buyout clause of 32 million and thought, we've paid 32 million for Shevchenko and he did nothing. We've paid 50 million for Torres and he won us the Champions League. And then we just gave a punt. We thought, that wasn't a fluke. Obviously, he was one of the key members to that Leicester team. We brought him in and he completely changed our season around. And Conte built around him. Was it Conte? I think Conte built around him that season, or was that the season Jose Mourinho? It was Conte's season. And he just built a team, and that team wouldn't have worked without Kante because obviously we had roaming fullbacks. Who would have thought Victor Moses would somehow win a Premier League title?
You played that 5 at the back with wing backs, though, didn't you? You played wing backs, 3 centre backs and wing backs, and he sat there. He could do everything.
The wing backs were Alonso and Victor Moses, and I don't understand how Victor Moses came into that team when he didn't have good loan spells at Liverpool and Wigan and people like that. But Kante was definitely the key to that team. You know, people like Hazard and that always say how good he was, and everyone always says, you always hear people say, "I'd take 2 Kantes" and stuff like that. People are always like, if you had 11 Kantes on a pitch, you'd win because sure he can't score goals all the time, but he scored a few goals against Man United. I remember I remember him nutmegging Paul Pogba outside the box and then proceeding to shoot, and I think nutmegging 2 more players with a shot. He don't know how he done it. He's one of them players like N'Golo Kante. It's like watching Claude Makelele when he was trying to shoot. It doesn't work, but somehow Kante did score a couple.
Didn't they give Makelele a penalty to try and get him a goal?
Yeah, it was the last game of the season when Chelsea were.
Did he score it?
No, it got saved, but he scored the rebound. He toe-punted it straight towards the keeper. It's like that Claude Makelele penalty, if you watch it, it's like what you see at like a summer fete where the keeper's in goal and the kid puts the ball down. The 3-year-old taking the penalty. Makelele steps forward and he kicks it, and it's clear it's going straight down the middle. I'm not even sure it's going to make the goal line, but the keeper's dived, made it look like it was a good attempt, kicked it back out to him like, here you go, have another chance, and he kicked it in. It was similar to that. It was like watching a toddler kick a ball, but the celebrations afterwards were good. But yeah, it was great to have Kante come join Chelsea, and obviously now he's regaining some form, which is really good for us. But I think his impact for both Leicester and Chelsea were immediate, and he's the reason both them teams won the Premier League. So yeah, he's going to...
I've got Kante. I must say, I've got Kante in centre mid next to Nobby Solano. I think those two would work.
What a pairing that would be. What a pairing. Yeah. No, I've got Kante as well. I think you're right. He has had the impact on both those teams. And I saw Makelele in the last couple of days has come out and said you need to stop calling it the Makelele position. It's the Kante position. So he's the true heir.
I think they're completely different, aren't they? Obviously, Kante's a bit more runabout, but Makelele had that class very capacity. Sometimes when I watch Kante get the ball, he just takes a big touch and somehow gets past people as well when he's dribbling and it works. But his passing is still little to be desired. He just looks for Jorginho, Kovacic and Mount, and that's all his role is. He gets the ball, gives it to someone near him who can then actually pass, but that's all he's needed for. What about you then, Dec? Do you want to go to another one of your midfielders, since I've taken one of yours in Kante?
If I'm going to do a 4-2-4, then my midfield 2 were Fernandes and Kante, which I think actually would work quite well. But a couple of others that I was thinking of for midfielders that probably haven't quite made the grade. Jesse Lingard at West Ham. He's
in my 2 fantastic mentions.
That he's having.
Love a bit of J Lings.
And he just a couple of years ago at Man United, I loved him and thought he was going to be a fantastic player, and he went so off the boil. And I don't, I think some people might suggest that Man United maybe mishandled him, or maybe he wants just, he's a confidence player, couldn't hack it. I don't know, but he's gone to West Ham and he's just been brilliant.
Yeah. I think it's maybe management as well. I think he needed the right manager around him to let him play, because he's so good going forward. He's very underrated.
Yeah, I think if he knows that he's the star, he seems to be that kind of player where ego gets to him and it kind of puffs his chest out and he plays really well. Whereas I think at United, he knew that he wasn't he was a good player, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't the star. And I think maybe that my personal, I think he crumbled under that.
Well, if you go to the 2018, if you look back at the 2018 World Cup, I always say how Harry Kane's golden boot was probably the most pathetic golden boot you'll ever see, because most of his goals were penalties or like
tap-ins.
He got a tap in from other people's headers from corners, but the only person that actually scored a good goal, in my opinion, was Jesse Lingard from the edge of the box. He's just curled it into the top right-hand corner. If any of you remember it, I can't remember. I think it was when we pumped whoever it was, like 6-1 or whatever.
Was it Panama or something?
Yeah, it was one of them teams we always seemed to be drawn against. Yeah. It was like Panama, but it was still a world-class goal.
If you're saying that was the only decent goal that was scored that World Cup by
an England
player, disappointed.
What? By an England player? Who else scored?
What about the free kick?
Oh yeah, but that meant nothing.
The free kick. That was like.
Okay, open play goal. It was the only decent open play goal.
Thank you.
Because the other goal that would have been good was Ruben Loftus-Cheek's goal when he smashed it towards net, but Harry Kane somehow got another goal because it bounced in. But obviously Lingard was only one of your honourable mentions. But who makes it into your midfield/attack?
So if I was going to go 4-3, I've got a curveball of Kieran Richardson when he went on loan to West Brom and they got out the Great Escape. But I'm going,
great shout.
I'm going four attackers. So I'm going to scrap Kieran Richardson, and Eric Cantona is going to play in the hole just behind my front three, because I think Eric Cantona coming into Man United was just, they bought him from one of the biggest rivals. At the time, Leeds, who had obviously won the league previously. It was a different world back then. And then he came in and just, he's one of the biggest legends in the Premier League history. He had that short spell where he won, I think it was 3 titles in 4 years, kicked a fan in the face, just was everything that, just epitomised that Man United team. You had scrappers like Steve Bruce.
Kicking a fan in the face. Manchester United.
They'd kick anything.
He made that Man United team. It was like we're Man United, and we'll just we'll come in and we'll beat you. And they had this sort of it wasn't like football is today. They were like say Bruce and Pallister. You had Brian Robson. You had all these players who were like tough. You just kick lumps out of people, and that you'd win the battle on the pitch, and then you and score a couple of goals. But then suddenly Cantona had both of that. He had the ability to kick you, but then he also, what the first ever game I went to was where we beat Sunderland, and he scored that chip over Perez, and it was just it's the first memory I have of football, and what a memory to have, because it's
fantastic.
Not bad.
And
he's great one my granddad took me to. But just a proper football player, and even he had such a huge impact, because then when he just, even the way he left, where he just suddenly just stopped playing football and became a film star, and what a character. And being the thing to me,
done like you said, film star, bought a farm and stuff, then he had a vineyard. He'd done loads of random stuff, and then obviously what was it, a few years ago, did you guys see at the Ballon d'Or awards, was it, or something, when he gave that weird speech when he got the honor, when he was just sat there in his farmer's outfit, when it was
so weird,
no idea what he was talking about, and it just panned to Ronaldo and Messi, and they're like,
was he hammered? He was hammered. That
no. I don't think there was any signs of him being drunk or anything. I'm not sure.
No, I think that's just serious.
That's just him.
Okay. It was weird. I remember that, and I remember thinking, "No, he's got to be drunk. I must be hearing this wrong. What's he doing?" And I sort of don't remember watching it back. I always thought he was drunk. Just because of how weird it was. I didn't realise he was.
It's nearly as bad as when that host asked the first female Ballon d'Or winner to twerk after she received her reward. Do you remember that? couple
God,
of years
yeah.
ago, she's been given the
Yeah.
Ballon d'Or, and they're like, "Here you go, you're the first winner. Fancy giving us a twerk?" And she's like, "No." Cantona would have strolled on stage, giving it, doing some.
Yeah,
nice
he'd have been
twerking.
twerking before he got it, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Who you got then?
Yeah.
To finish your midfield, is it?
I'll go quickly. Yeah, right and left mid. Mo Salah.
Yeah.
I know Deck will hate that choice, but yeah, I've got to put him in there. 32 goals. He scored 44 in total, including getting them to a Champions League with Van Dijk. That's just a great return for a guy playing like wing. I know it's the way Liverpool like to play, and they want to get them involved. Bobby Firmino sits as a false nine or whatever, not scoring any goals at all, pretty useless. But the other two did a good job that season, and the next one, and he was part of it. And the next one is Eden Hazard at Chelsea. I think he came in 9 goals, 11 assists from a man out wide. Don't think you can really argue with that. 34 appearances, 3 off the bench. First season, we talk about having a bit of an impact. Some people have done nothing, and he's come in and got 9 goals and 11 assists. He was a joy to watch, I think, as well. It was entertaining. You'd pay your ticket fee just to watch Hazard. I think at times at Chelsea, it was mesmerising. So yeah, those two out wide for me. A lot of goals. I know this isn't a Chelsea podcast, but yeah, those two are very good and was impactful for me.
I think the Hazard impact was probably even higher with the way he constructed that whole transfer as well, because he came in with even more of an expectation for that whole, I will announce my new club in the next 5. It was all a whole. I remember thinking, to United. I didn't even know who he was, but just because the whole drama of it, I wanted him to come to United.
Yeah, it was the first,
but yeah, no, I think.
Yeah, he was the first ever player to officially announce what team he was joining via Twitter. I remember, like you saying, he said, "I'm going to join a team in the Premier League." Saying all the Premier League teams, all the Premier League teams in Chelsea, Man City, and Man U, that he'd actually joined because all the others were trash. Because it was 2012 finish of that season, so Fergie's just left, I believe, and it's like, and then he's like, "I'll join the champions," and Chelsea like, "Oh well, we're the Champions League winners." Man U, I think, were the Premier League winners. So Man City are like, "Oh, well, we won the FA Cup or the EFL Cup. They won something, so we're technically champions. So everyone's got a right to get." And then he said, I'll join a team in blue. And then, he ended up coming to Chelsea. I haven't got him in my team. I was going to pull him, but I thought I don't want to be too biased because I thought the impact was Chelsea. Good. Yeah, I don't want to be too Chelsea. I thought the impact was good, but obviously he won the Europa League.
It was for out wide though. He didn't play further forward. He was playing as a left or right mid. He wasn't like a right or left wing. He was in the midfield, and that is impressive for someone who wasn't already up there in terms of playing as a winger. He was more of a wide man. I think that's still impressive.
Yeah, I'll give you one of mine next. I've got 3 players left, and one of them's a bit of a cheeky shout because I'll go for him next. He's not actually a signing, an impact signing, but considering he played for this team for a couple of seasons before he actually made his Premier League debut. So like I've gone a bit out of the box, out of the rules where it's like an impact signing comes in straight away. But this guy's first season in the Premier League for Sunderland is Kevin Phillips. And obviously I think he just needs to get a shout, and he should get in one of our teams, even though he didn't sign for Sunderland when they came into the Premier League. He won the first division with Sunderland and came straight into the Premier League. 30 goals in his first season in the Premier League is a pretty big impact in my eyes. Sunderland coming into the Premier League, 30 goals for this.
Finished 4th, didn't they?
I can't remember where they finished. I think they finished. Yeah, I think it was 4th actually.
They finished 4th in the first season. He was big.
I looked earlier, and 30 goals is just incredible. And he's actually the last English player to ever win the European Golden Boot. So you think of the likes of Harry Kane and Wayne Rooney that have come since him. But they've come during the time of Messi and Ronaldo, of course. But like he's the last Englishman to actually win the European Golden Boot. And looking at them stats when I was looking for impacts in teams and Premier League impacts, he actually came up as a Premier League impact his debut season. And I was like, well, even though he didn't sign for him that season, I think that should maybe give him enough to maybe get a shout in this podcast. Plus, I couldn't think
I'm happy to let him in.
I couldn't think of loads of people, and all of my players are near enough. All of my players, bar Thiago Silva's basically, and Edison, to be fair, is basically in one of your teams. So I needed someone I can guarantee none of you had. and Kevin Phillips was a man. So, Harv, who you got next then?
Well, that was my midfield done. I had Kante, Solano, Salah, and Hazard.
Yeah.
Had you finished your? Yeah, we was on more attackers now, weren't
my
we?
midfield was Kante, Bruno. So I'm playing a 3-3-4 apparently. I'll put Kevin Phillips left wing.
Okay. So I'm going to go with. I've got 3 up top. I'm going to leave my favourite out of the 3 in terms of impact signings till last, but these 2 are massive names, and I think if anyone had the chance to sign these 2 in the prime, I don't think you'd care what the price tag was. I've got Aguero when he signed for City, won the league, 8 assists, 23 goals, a total of 30 goals in all competitions, and then to win the league as well. Pretty impressive, especially when you think about players take time to adapt to the Premier League. Can they get used to the pace? Can they cut it? The defenders are big, strong. They'll kick lumps at you, especially back then as well. There were still some decent defenders about, a lot more than there are now, that is for sure. And to get 23 goals and 8 assists, I think was pretty impressive.
I think it was 10 assists I've got written down because I've got Aguero.
Have you got 10?
You said, I'll quickly name mine because I'm only left with one attacker now because I've got Salah. Obviously, that season he signed 17-18 season, 32 goals, 11 assists. Was just incredible. The most in a 36 game or 38 game Premier League season, is just incredible. So I've got him up top with Kevin Phillips and Aguero. I've actually got 34 games in the Premier League, 23 goals, 10 assists. And then in total, 48 games, 30 goals, 12 assists. And obviously he scored the most important goal in Man City's history on the last game of the season. So if that's not an impact, I don't know what is. So,
do you not even like that as a sporty moment though, Dec? I know it's City.
It didn't happen.
Didn't happen. I was you still up at Sunderland, were you?
I mean, if I'm being honest, I wish it didn't happen.
It was the single most harrowing moment, I think, of my footballing life. It brings back horrible, painful moments.
It must be tough, but as a sporting moment, I know there's a lot of hatred there. That's got to be something in the Premier League that goes down, in history in terms of what a moment that was for someone to win a Premier League title. It was, I think, all right, I get it. You're a United fan and you hate City. It's obvious, but it was still such the whole last 5 minutes of that season was just incredible from a football fan perspective. I think the whole world must have been watching that last 5 minutes because it was incredible.
One of the most incredible things in footballing history. But as a Man United fan, it wasn't even the fact that it was City, but it was just one of the most. I think Gary Neville a couple of days later said that it was like watching someone sleep with your wife.
Yeah, I remember
because it was. I remember watching. I was watching United Sunderland. The game finished. My dad was on the phone because he was away, and he said, "Oh, what's happening?" And then I turned over and I said, "Oh, Dzeko's just scored." And then the next few minutes, I blocked them out of my life.
You can't remember.
They didn't happen.
I remember Gary Neville saying that, and little did Gary Neville know Ryan Giggs was actually at his house having sex with his wife. But no, I've got Aguero for that reason. And like Dec said, I'm a Chelsea fan, and I really didn't want Man City to win it. I hate it when new teams win stuff. So I wanted Man U to win that just because I was like, I don't want Man City to add their name to the likes of Chelsea. I think it's Chelsea, Arsenal, Man United, and Blackburn were the only teams to actually win the Premier League. Yeah. So Man City to come along and be the fifth, that was annoying. It's like I never want an English team to actually win the Champions League because it's hard. Because I just want Chelsea to be the last team to do it, and unfortunately Liverpool did it. Didn't want Liverpool to win the league. I wanted Man City to do it because I don't want them to have their names on the Premier League trophy. But it happened. But yeah, that Aguero moment, like you say, Harv, I still think it's probably the biggest moment in Premier League history, especially for that club. But like, just if you pick one moment, that Aguero goal, just the commentary and everything surrounding it. And because it was Man City and Man United made it, if it was Man City versus Chelsea, no one would care, I think, as much.
Yeah.
Because it was Man City, Man United, it was huge.
Added something extra to that. Yeah, definitely did.
He scored a hat, didn't he, on his debut? I think when you talk about Aguero, can he hack it? I seem to remember, was it Monday Night Football or something? Was it Swansea or This is
I've
where
got
my
yeah.
memory of
down.
football.
He's got. I think he got 2 goals today, or did he get a hat trick? I know on
He
his
came,
debut he got.
didn't
a
he
couple.
come on? Didn't he come on and score
Come
2?
on as a sub and scored.
He
2
came
goals.
on as a
Yeah.
sub, yeah, and with about half an hour
And
left,
just
he came on
immediately.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems to ring a bell. Deck, how many players have you got left?
Well, I've got my big 3 up top, which they are a big 3. They're not really modern day sort of flashy wingers and things like that. And your Mo Salahs and your Eden Hazards who play on the left or right of a 3. I've gone. My favourite one, my top one, who I think is a real undervalued one, but in terms of impact, is Les Ferdinand at Newcastle, which again we're talking old school football there. But he joined Newcastle in the summer before they came second with the famous Kevin Keegan. I would love it.
Yes.
They were 12 points clear of Man United. They assembled a team. Les Ferdinand got 25 goals for them in the Premier League that year. He was the focal point. They signed Shearer the year after, so this is pre-Shearer. And Shearer actually took Ferdinand's shirt, but Ferdinand was the man in that team, and they were just fantastic. They crumbled at the end. You can say the impact is the start of the season. They were absolutely brilliant. They crumbled at the end. We all know what happened. And Keegan had his meltdown, and United won the league. But I think Les Ferdinand in that year, the following year he had a good one as well with Newcastle. But that first season he was just superb.
Was there Skrilla there at the same time? Was it a Skrilla and Ferdinand up top?
Skrilla joined in January, so he only played a few games. He became a bit more of an impact the next season, but.
I was going to say maybe he's the reason the second half of the season didn't go too well by the sounds of it. Just a heads up though, Man City are 1-0 up. Riyad Mahrez has scored for Man City in the Champions League, taking it. So it looks like it's going to be a Chelsea-Man City final, lads.
I must admit that I will be supporting Chelsea.
There's 2 of us.
That's the bloody case. Like you said, City winning new things. I'm not having that.
Yeah.
My were a bit more. Well, one was Didier Drogba, because I say if I'm remembering, if I look back in the last 10 or 15 years of the Premier League, when he came in at Chelsea, he was just like a different breed of anything.
He was an animal, wasn't he?
We're talking. I just mentioned there Les Ferdinand. He was a player, but Drogba was like 10 Les Ferdinands. He was like this. He was almost animalistic. He just looked terrifying to be on the pitch with. He was just big, strong, fast. He was just everything, and he was everything I'd have had I hated that Chelsea team with a passion, hated them. But if I could take play, Lampard and Drogba would have walked into Old Trafford. They were just brilliant players, and Didier Drogba to come in and have that impact he had, because I think obviously they won the league, and he went on to win many more titles. So he's in there for me. And then because you two have already done yours, I'll name my last one. But I left my favourite till last is Van Persie coming across from Arsenal to United. This was after that horrific Aguero moment, and I think that moment really. I think.
Did you miss that summer, Deck? Did you miss that summer? Does that just gone through the whole summer? Is it just ruined?
There's photos of me 2 hours after the game, when I lived with one of my mates, just sat in the garden with my hood up, just sat in the corner of the garden. I don't remember.
I think I've seen that picture. I think I've genuinely have seen that picture.
I'll be honest. I can relate, because when Chelsea lost the Champions League final to Man United and John Terry slipped for that penalty, that was single-handedly the worst moment of my life. Doesn't matter.
So this is the thing with football. So I don't even think about that moment because it was so joyous for me. But exactly. On the flip side of it,
you forget. I knew, and then on top of that, when Anelka stepped up, I knew he was going to miss it. But it was just that John Terry slip. He was Chelsea, wasn't he? He was captain, leader, legend. Drogba's gone. He got a red card. But if John Terry had scored that would have been the greatest day of my life. But he missed. He slipped. I remember skiving school for the next 2 days because I owed about 80 quid to kids in my school. Everyone was Man U fans growing up in my school. I'm from that era where everyone's Man United fans. I didn't have 80 quid. I needed like another 4 months to earn my pocket money. So I had like 4 months of backdated pocket money I then needed to give to people. I was that confident. And I don't try out to bet. So it kind of hurt. So I definitely remember skiving a couple of days off. My dad being a big Chelsea fan persuaded my mum to let me have them days off because I just couldn't cope mentally. But yeah, that's how. Thinking about how you feel about that Aguero goal, I'm pretty sure if I put my emotions from that John Terry split the other way around, I'm pretty sure that's exactly how you feel. Fortunately, being a Walsall fan, you never have good moments, do you, Harv? So, but yeah,
mate, I've been to the only good moment. That's when we got promoted.
About Van Persie a bit more than that, because I have in my honourable mentions, and I think you've got some more to say.
So
about
yeah,
it, right?
For me, again having the impact, he came in. Obviously, the fact that we've got him from Arsenal already was just huge. It was just massive, and it was a massive sort of. It put Arsenal down, and to be honest, I don't think they've really ever recovered as a club. I don't think they've ever really got back into the upper echelon of the Premier League. Yeah. The fact that because he was captain of Arsenal as well, wasn't he?
I think there was a string of 3 captains in a row where they lost their captains to rival teams, like Man United and Man City and Chelsea or Barcelona or whatever, and they all just left, didn't they? Koscielny subsequently left as well. Everyone's just, as soon as they get made captain, I think a season or 2 seasons after, they leave and go on to better things. Because
you're captain half the squad now, aren't you? You're an Arsenal fan. You get rid of everyone by like a couple of years.
He'll be gone.
Yeah,
but obviously Van Persie came in and was just class. I think I remember his debut. If I'm getting this right, he got the hat trick against Southampton. I think we were 2-0 down.
First game of the season, wasn't it?
It was a season where, after what had happened against the year before, we just had to win the league and we had to start quickly. And we were 2-0 down against Southampton, and he comes on and gets a second half hat trick, including a last minute winner. And then I think he got his, he scored the winner against City at the Etihad, that free kick that I think was slightly deflected, but still it was his goal. And he just seemed to come up with so many big goals. He scored the one that won the league for us. Was
that the diving header or was that the volley?
The volley where Rooney hit it from halfway.
That's it. God.
I always get mixed up. I always get mixed up between the volley being for Man United and the diving header being for the Netherlands, weren't it? I think the diving header was against Australia. But yeah, that volley was so beautiful.
I speak to my missus whenever I see that on telly. I will nudge her and go, "I've taught you about this. What is this?" And that goal is genuinely so that. You've played football. We've all played football. To hit that volley, just wow, incredible technique. He's watching it over one shoulder, hits it with his opposite foot. I know it's his left foot and it's his favourite foot, but to watch it from 50, 60 yards on the run, everything about that goal is just absolutely incredible. Keeper didn't even move either. It was mental.
He was obviously brought in for one reason. They gave him number 20 because they wanted the 20th title, and it was just poetic. I think that his signing was just completely. If football can be poetic, which I think it can, that signing and that year as a Man United fan was just fantastic. And I suppose the sad thing is, ever since then, I think he was promised. Fergie said to him he was going to be there for a couple of years, and he wasn't. He left that season because he knew, I think, that he had probably done as much as he could with that squad. And it was since then we just haven't. Man United as a club haven't had the success that they had in that season. So
he also got Guard of Honour off Arsenal, didn't he? I believe.
I remember him.
He did. They won the title, and I think the next couple of games he had to go to Arsenal. Was it at the Emirates as well?
It was at the Emirates, yeah.
Yeah, and they gave him. He got a Guard of Honour. I remember that being quite a big thing. Yeah, that was good. He was good. We spoke about this last week, Mike, but your thoughts. Would you have him over Ruud van Nistelrooy in terms of a striker for Man United?
In the Premier League Hall of Fame, if you could only have one of them two,
because he was on the shortlist, wasn't he? Yeah. He was on the shortlist. But would you have him? Would you have him over Ruud van Nistelrooy?
Not on that shortlist.
I don't.
No, Van Persie is though.
Yeah,
Van Persie is, and Ruud isn't.
For the Hall of Fame, which one would you pick if you could only?
I'm going by your
or
Deck's reaction there says it all. I think.
Yeah.
That's got to say it all.
Ruud van Nistelrooy was. It's actually interesting that I've not really considered him. Because again, he had a massive impact when he first came in, and obviously after that failed transfer, after he did his knee, and didn't he? Just before the transfer was meant to happen, then he signed him a year later.
I remember.
Ruud van Nistelrooy for me was one of the greatest strikers I've ever seen.
I think he's
finishing ability.
I think he's the best box, inside the box striker
Poacher.
in the Premier League,
Box
right?
in the box.
I think
You whenever he got a sniff, you knew he would score.
Yeah.
There was
I
never
think he
any.
scored-
he might get.
I think he scored
1-on-one,
100.
always score.
Think
150 goals, one outside the box.
outside the box is just.
Yeah.
And like Deck said, when he's inside the box, he's scoring. I remember watching. I think
Danger.
it was Man U versus Arsenal, wasn't it? And was it Martin Keown? Who was it? He had that
Shout in his
match
face.
with. Yeah,
Yeah, Keown
you know what I mean?
in his
And
face
it's
because
like-
he missed the pen, didn't he?
missed a pen,
Yeah.
but it didn't matter because you knew. I don't know why Keown done that. He probably thought he was big, and he was big and hard, to be fair. But like in that moment, it's like, why would you do that? Because Van Nistelrooy just needs one more chance, and he'll do it back, and he did.
Yeah.
And I loved it when he done that. I'm not actually sure whether did he get a yellow?
It was a
card for
different
that?
game.
He didn't get a yellow
Keown-
card, did he? Van Nistelrooy, but he went straight up to him, put his arms up, and the ref came and pulled him away or pulled him over.
That game had something silly like over 10 cards, didn't it? It was
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Everyone
got
was,
booked at the end. There was
and
it
everyone
was-
got
it was
fined,
last
didn't they?
year, Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and,
then the
everyone
next
got
time
fined.
We played them at Old Trafford the next time is when we ended their run, and Nistelrooy scored the first goal, I think.
Yes,
So yeah.
and then he went in.
As soon as he got his next opportunity, we ended their run. I think Rooney got the second one. We won 2-0. I'd certainly put Nistelrooy ahead of Van Persie. I think Van Persie had a fantastic impact just in that, like I said, about that one season where he came in, just everything was perfect for that situation. But Van Nistelrooy as a player, for me,
definitely. I think as a
hands down.
if you talk about the Premier League Hall of Fame and you have a 23-man shortlist and Van Persie's in it over Van Nistelrooy, I think someone somewhere's done something wrong, in my opinion.
I think they
Van
might have spelt
Persie,
the
I think
last
Van
name wrong.
Persie will get in the Hall of Fame eventually. I think all of them names will, to be fair, but Van Nistelrooy should definitely be getting in before.
Yeah, how do you
Van
miss him
Persie.
off? Yeah,
I think that
didn't
just
seem
leaves
right.
me and you, Harv, with one player each.
I've got two. I've got two players.
Yep,
I've got two
fair
players left. I'll go with the man who's already in the Hall of Fame, Alan Shearer, when he moved to Newcastle. 25 goals, 31 games, and then he got the PFA Player of the Year award that year, and he also missed 7 games. So, you talk about he had a bit of an injury. He's missed 7 games. He's still bagged 25 in 31. Don't know what happened, whether he came on as a sub or he was rested for the last game. But 25 goals. You return to your hometown. The fans loved it. Don't know if any of you've seen it's probably will be on YouTube or on a VHS. It was that old. It was just phenomenal. He was stood out there like you see, like when Ronaldo signs for Madrid at the Bernabeu. It was that sort of impact. They loved him. He was a golden boy. He was their son. And to score 25 goals in it, they were a good team. Like Deck said, the year before they finished second, but I don't think they got anywhere near that season. But just bag 25 goals in 31 games is massive. Who do you want? Do you want to go last or do you want to go next?
I'll let you go next, and I'll go last if you want. End with a Chelsea player.
So this one season wonder, Michu.
Yeah, I knew someone was going to have Michu.
One season was mental.
Yeah.
It was incredible, wasn't it? That one season, I've got 19 or 22 goals. Player of the Year and Supporters Player of the Year for Swansea.
For Swansea as well, yeah.
It was just incredible. He just kept turning up, didn't he? Every other week, it was like, oh, he scored again. Okay, he scored again. And but they were down in the bottom 5. They weren't doing much, were they? They were an average team, but he was scoring goals left, right, and centre, and that impact was mental. That was just incredible as well.
Yeah.
I think did they come up that season, and then he signed when they got in the Prem, and then 20 odd goals was just incredible. And head, left or right as well, he could do everything.
Yeah.
For that one season. Anything else after it was shocking.
I think a few seasons later he was playing in the 3rd division in Spain or something like that. He just dropped off a cliff, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I think even the very next season, I think he barely got. I don't think he got 10 goals, and he was just nothing. He just shadow of what he was before. But
Crazy.
that season, it was incredible. That season, I just remember seeing every other week. It was like, oh, Michu scored again. Michu scored. I think he pretty much kept him up. I think that season.
Yeah,
that was an incredible season. Yeah,
But
yeah, absolutely.
my last player is someone like Dex said. He said he's got big boys up top, and I was tempted to put Didier in. I wanted to put Drogba in, but I think the player that I've chosen is Diego Costa for Chelsea. And that's because the impact he had was because we'd spent so long with Drogba being our big game player, being our man up top, that when he left, all we wanted to do was look for players of that ilk. We wanted a Drogba replacement. We even went out and got Romelu Lukaku, this young Belgian lad from Belgium who looked a lot like Drogba in certain instances. His build, his height, the way he played was very Drogba. He just didn't work at Chelsea. And then I remember there being a joke about Chelsea just trying to sign a big man. I don't know whether you used that. I've heard the Peter Crouch podcast and stuff like that. It's like, oh yeah, Chelsea just want to sign a big man. So Peter Crouch was in the reckoning and players like that. I think that was after Diego Costa maybe or whatever. But we always looked for that big man around then. And the only player that's ever come close to Drogba is Diego Costa. You know, he joined Chelsea in the 14-15 season, and he won the Premier League title with us. 26 games he played for Chelsea in the Premier League, 20 goals, 3 assists. You know, winning the Premier League and the EFL trophy. I think it was called the Carling Cup at that point. It keeps changing names at the moment, but yeah, the EFL trophy and the Premier League title in his first season, and he was just an absolute shithouse, wasn't he? He just went around. Loved starting fights. I remember the Battle of the Bridge against Tottenham. I think that's one of my favourite games ever because not only did we stop Tottenham's title race against Leicester that season, the season after, obviously, I think that's when Hazard scored the goal. But Diego Costa just loved winding all the Tottenham players up, and I'd love to do the same. You know, I'd love to go on a pitch, just annoying all the Tottenham players, telling them how they're all absolutely trash and they'll never go on to better things other than maybe Harry Kane. But I can imagine
you spoke about. Oh, go on.
No, carry on, mate.
You spoke about Lukaku there. By the way, when you loaned him out to West Brom, talk about an impact signing. I know none of us have probably got him down, but he bagged 22 goals for West Brom that season, didn't he?
He was someone that, again, when I was doing research, he came up. There were so many players came up, Michu, Lukaku, but Lukaku just didn't work for Chelsea. It's sickening to think the fact that we've let Lukaku go and now he's just won a title with Inter Milan. We let Salah go, who's got one of the best records in Premier League history goals-wise. We let Kevin De Bruyne go, who's currently playing PSG in a semi-final of the Champions League, just about to win another Premier League. But like when Costa came in, again, he was just one of them players that Atletico Madrid just smash out amazing strikers, don't they? You know, they've had the likes of Torres before, they had the likes of Aguero, Falcao. And Diogo Costa, players like this that have come through like lower teams into their squad. They've then built them up and sold them to a big team where they've gone to do big things. And Diego Costa came to Chelsea and he helped elevate us from, like I said, with Kante joined that season to help regain the title from a 10th position finish behind like Leicester winning the league. Kante came in and so did Diego Costa. And I think what a signing he was, because he meant we could go back to the way we had been playing football for so many years with Didier Drogba. And
yeah, he was a big man, wasn't he? Big target man. Didn't care about throwing elbows or receiving an elbow.
Yeah,
you know, old school centre forward in a modern game, really, wasn't he? He was,
and
like
again,
you said,
similar,
he was a shit
similar to Drogba. He wasn't obviously as big or as strong, but I think he was quick and he was a decent finisher. And he just, he didn't care.
He knew where the net was. He definitely knew where the net was.
But I think that
he was the type of player who, as an opposition fan, you hated him. I couldn't stand Diego Costa, but then if he played for Man United, you'd absolutely love him.
Those are the best players in my eyes.
He fought on the pitch, didn't he?
Yeah.
Those players
I love those players.
Those players for no other reason than the fact that they're an absolute shithouse are the best.
Robbie Savage is one. Robbie Savage.
I still hate Savage. Some of the stuff he says is absolutely absurd. You know, he called John Terry out and told John Terry was never that good, and John Terry responded saying, "Well, I'm not going to take any advice from someone that's not won anything. So what's the point?" And
but he's the sort of guy in your team again. Like if he's in your team, you love him, don't you?
Exactly.
And then anyone else hates him. Everyone else, even the refs when they elbow him, and everything like that. When that happened, you know, everyone cheered, didn't they? It was like, we've done Robbie Savage. The refs done Robbie Savage. I think Costa was a player like that. Like you say, opposition fans hate him, but you, as a fan, just love them, don't they? They get a sort of status as well. I think at a club, when you get a player like that, you love him. Don't know why everyone hates him, and then he goes, and you think, I hate him. I genuinely hate him.
My final spot was between him and Zola because I thought Zola had a big impact on Chelsea before the money. So obviously we had some other players in the likes of Desiree, but Zola came in and he had a pretty good impact in his first season. But I left him out because I wanted to give
on the league.
Say again,
not just Chelsea, he had a massive impact on the league. Zola did, because he came in, he was one of the first big sort of foreign signings to the Premier League, and he kind of paved the way. So I think he would have been a really good shout, not only having an impact on the team, but on just the Premier League in general.
He was quality though. He was like, he had a bit of a different class about him than we'd probably seen before. Like there wasn't like, he was just technically brilliant, quick, agile, probably one of the first better ball dribblers. Him and probably Ginola at the time, those two. Travel with a ball at pace, skills, trickery, probably not seen it as much or hadn't seen it as much before. But yeah, like you say, I think he probably was did pave the way a bit. He was outstanding. Good little player. Not bad at all.
So we jump into the next subject then, like the next little topic, Harv, where we give, because we're skipping the who versus who this week, because we've got to do the fact. We'll both give Deck a fact, and Deck chooses which of the two facts he thinks is the best fact. And then after that, we'll be saying goodbye to Deck, and me and Harv will quickly be running through our Prem score predictor for this week. So did you want to go first, Harv, or did you want me to go first?
I'll go. Okay. I'll go. One player has played 4 World Cups, but has never played any qualifiers. He played in the 82 at 18 years old. He played in the 86, Italia 90, and then France 98. And that was Giuseppe Bergomi for Italy. He'd never actually played in any qualifiers, never played any qualifying minutes, just rocked up when it mattered, and played in 4 World Cups, which I think is pretty impressive. He just sort of managed to sort of sneak in there at the end in France 98. There was a bit of a hoo-ha about how he got in and why he got in. But to sort of play it for 4 World Cups, you're obviously half a decent player, but how have you not played any qualifiers or any qualifying minutes at all? But yeah, that was my fun fact. 4 World Cup appearances and no qualifying minute appearances either. That's pretty impressive.
It makes you wonder how on earth that's even possible. Yeah, how on earth can you only World Cup?
Yeah, how does that? How is it just?
Why did he was really bad and only got good in like May? That they were his May and June was good.
Yeah.
It's definitely
couldn't play in the cold.
Yeah, definitely sounds like someone that had a poor season, but when it came to being chosen for the actual squad, like Jesse Lingard now, obviously he's
World Cup years, he loved it.
That's it. What his stats are for the Euros, Harv? Did he make any Euros squads, or was it just specifically World Cup?
Well, it was just a stat on the World Cup, but I still think to get there, he's spanned nearly 20 years.
Yeah.
For an extra 4 years, it just seems incredible, really.
Ooh, I don't think my stats as good as that, to be honest. I mean, I've got a few that I could choose from, but I don't want to. That one everyone knows about. Everyone knows about this stat in regards to Denmark winning the 1992 Euros despite not qualifying. So, or did you not know about that? I might do that one. So, it's between. I'll do this one because I've already said it. So, obviously, in 1992, the only team to ever win a competition, a world competition like the Euros or the Copa America or the World Cup without actually qualifying for it was Denmark in 1992. They didn't actually qualify for the Euros. But in 1992, start of the year, turn of the year, Yugoslavia actually disbanded as a country, breaking up into like numerous countries that we see now, like Croatia and Czech Republic and all these. And they needed a team to actually partake to even out the numbers, and it was even groups, even knockout stages, and Denmark were the highest ranking team that didn't qualify, with the likes of Michael Laudrup, Brian Laudrup, some decent players back then, obviously Peter Schmeichel and all them lot, and they got invited to the Euros, got put into a group where I don't think they were expected to go out of, they went out of, and they actually ended up going on to win the 1992 Euros ahead of the likes of France and Germany and Spain and teams like that who were favourites to win it, after they didn't even qualify for the tournament, and they just got in because of what happened in Yugoslavia and then folding as a country. So it's pretty interesting.
Does that not count if you're the host nation as well?
What do you mean? If you're the host nation, you're automatically qualified, don't you?
Yeah, I know, but I didn't know if you was on about qualifying in terms of
No,
like
qualifying.
the host
This
nation.
is the
Because
only
you don't
team.
physically qualify, but you do qualify.
Yeah,
Yeah.
technically a host nation qualifies because they're hosting it. Denmark didn't
Ah,
qualify.
okay.
They only got through the qualification because Yugoslavia disbanded. They went through all the teams in Europe and said, pick the
Okay.
highest ranked team. And it happened
you.
to be Denmark, who were maybe like 6th or 7th at the time, who didn't qualify. And they ended up actually going on to win the tournament. Their only major honour as a country came from when they shouldn't have actually been in the tournament.
You said at the start you think everyone knows that. I didn't know that at all. That is completely news to me.
I've heard that ages ago. That's something that I've heard of before. But yeah, that's a fact that I think people in a footballing community should maybe know, because that's pretty incredible in my eyes.
Yeah,
I think there's two good facts there. Genuinely think there was honestly two good facts there.
I'll be honest, if I was going to give the other fact, I definitely think you would have won, and it was just to do with a Scottish Cup match that was postponed 29 times between Falkirk and Inverness, where they went to play the match 29 times, and all 29 times the referee on the day said the weather was too cold, too much snow, and they called it off 29 times. It's the 30th time that they actually managed to play it, and it was 4-0 to Falkirk, and they scored all 4 goals in the first half, so it's kind of pointless. And that was 71 days after the original game was meant to take place. And so that was my other fact that I was going to go for, because I thought everyone knew the Denmark.
That was impressive as well.
So that's impressive. But I'm cheating there. I've given 2 facts. So
yeah.
Well, I must admit, obviously, I've got to make a decision here. But I'm sorry, Harvey, but the fact that I was completely unaware of that Denmark thing has done it for me. Because I obviously knew Denmark had won it, but did not know that they had not qualified. And although some Italian fellas are good at playing in the football, that fact has done it for me.
Fair enough. I just thought everyone knew that.
It's still it's still good though. That is such a. I mean, I'd heard about it. I hadn't really looked into it. I didn't realise how they got in, like the why. I didn't realise it was because Yugoslavia disbanded, but I knew that they hadn't qualified, but still managed to get in. I just thought there was some money involved, and it was FIFA, so I thought it'd be all right.
Definitely. That's how Qatar have managed to get into the 2022 World Cup, right? So,
that's going to be great fun, isn't it? I don't know how they're going to do that. That just seems mental.
Yeah,
it really
I know,
does.
right?
I've heard Italy, Pigosi, whatever his name was. They're bringing him out of retirement.
Bring him out.
Your lad Harvey.
Bigomi. Giuseppe Bigomi.
Giuseppe.
Yeah, he'll love it. He will love it. It'd be funny if he came out just to manage him.
That's it. It's World Cup season, so that's when he starts.
Yeah.
About it,
Yeah. That is true. But thanks for that, Deck. Hope you enjoyed yourself.
Episode. Yeah.
Yeah, love that topic.
Enjoyed that.
Yeah, we are hoping. We've had a few other topics come in from other friends of ours as well, and we've got a few other guests lined up. Not called Deck, sadly, but we've got. Yeah, we might have to get them to change the name just to get in. But that was a great topic. I think there's probably a lot of other people, listeners as well. If you've got some other players you think we've missed, drop them in the comments on Twitter, YouTube, whatever, and let us know. I imagine there is some that we've probably just totally missed. I found it quite hard work, I must say, to try and find 11, but there'll be some like people that support their own team that were in Prem for a few seasons or whatever, that'll have some of their own signings that we've missed. I'd love to hear some of them as well, wouldn't you, Mike?
Yeah, definitely. We were only talking about positive impact signings. Imagine what 11 we could come up with negative impact signings. That's a completely different ball story, isn't it? So
yeah.
Obviously, Kepa being one, he was a huge negative for Chelsea. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. It was really good to research and find different players as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of players there like Nobby Solano, Michu, with Dex brought old school Cantona, and there's some players there that people might not have heard of, the younger generation especially, and they'll only see like the global superstars. But there's some players that have just had like amazing one-season wonders and stuff like that were, you'd probably say they were like one of the best players in the league when they came in, that you've never heard of now.
Yeah. But that's going to be it from Deck. And me and Harvey are going to go do our Prem score predictor. Cheers for being on deck. It's been a pleasure, mate.
No, appreciate it. Really enjoyed that. So thanks for having me on.
Cheers. Right. It was great to have Deck on the podcast. I think he'll definitely come back on again. I think that was a solid topic. But we've got one more thing to talk about, and that is our quick score predictor. Half. We'll try and smash through this because that episode was long, but it was fun.
Just tell us the scores, Mike, quickly.
Yeah,
just tell us the scores.
So last week, obviously, it was 41-43 to you. You had a 2-point advantage. But following the results and that late West Ham 2-1 win yesterday on Monday, you got a cheeky 3 points. It was 7-6 to me this past week, which means the scores currently reside at 48 to me, 49 to you. You've got a 1-point advantage leading into this game week. Only a few more left, Half. We'll have the wheel soon, mate, and we'll have the forfeits ready. So it's going to be close. We're starting off Friday. We've got Leicester City against Toon against the Newcastle. I've gone for a 2-1 home win. What about yourself?
Oh, 2-0. I've gone 2-0 Leicester.
2-0 home win. I was going to go for that, but I'm glad I went different. We need some different results. Big one here. Leeds at home to Spurs. Spurs fans buzzing that they managed to beat Sheffield United this last game week, but it was Sheffield United. This is a real test for Ryan Mason. What are you saying?
2-1 Leeds.
2-1 Leeds. Ooh, baby. I've gone for a 3-1 Tottenham. Damn.
We are talking about the same. They're not playing the under 23s or something, are they?
No, I've gone for a 3-1 Tottenham away win. Next up, we've got what's going to be the boring game of the weekend, in my opinion. Sheffield United against Crystal Palace. What are you going for?
You've obviously not seen the second to last game, I must say. But 2-1 Sheffield United.
You've got 2-1 Sheffield United. Oh, I've gone for 1-0 Palace. Okay, we've got some different results here. This is going to be a good week. Probably the best game of the weekend. I'll start us off with a 2-1 Chelsea win away against Manchester City.
I've gone 2-2. I think it'll be. I reckon it'll be there's going to be a mad 10 minutes in there where like 3 goals go in, and then the rest of the game will probably be boring, and someone will pip an equaliser or something.
Well, Chelsea, best team in the world, can easily dispatch Man City.
Women's.
We beat them 1-0 in the FA Cup semi-final. We're going to beat them in this match, and we'll beat them in the final of the Champions League because they're currently 3-1 up on aggregate against PSG at half-time. Next up, we've got Liverpool at home to their feeder club in Southampton. So a lot of former Southampton players playing for Liverpool.
Under 23s.
Yep, that's
3-1 Southampton. 3. No, all right. 3-1 Liverpool. 3-1 Liverpool. I nearly slipped there.
I've gone 3-0 Liverpool. So
okay.
That's a good one. Wolves at home to Brighton next.
1-1.
1-1. I've gone for
that's my boring game. That's my boring game of the week, that one. Yeah.
I've gone for a 2-1 win.
Brighton?
To Wolves.
Oh.
Actually, yeah, I'll go Brighton. I'll change that. Do you know what?
Oh.
I'll go for a 2-1 away Brighton.
Expected goals better turn up.
Do you know what? I'm going back to my 2-1 Wolves win. 2-1 Wolves. 2-1 Wolves. I've checked. I've got so many crosses on that. Yeah, you nearly changed me. Villa against Manchester United.
3-1 United.
3-1 United. I've gone for a 2-0 United win. We've got a lot of equal scores here. I've got a 2-goal difference. West Ham against Everton. Now, I think this is going to be a good game. I do.
Yes, I like to think so. Go on.
I'm stuck on numerous results.
I've gone 2-1 West Ham, if that helps.
I haven't got one for this one. I could easily say 2-1, so we both got it. I thought 2-1 West Ham, 2-1 Everton. I'm thinking a draw, but I don't like draws.
Draw? No, I don't like draws. But I've gone 2-1 West Ham. Come on.
Do you know what? I'll go 2 to West Ham. I'll go 2-0, 2-2. 2-0 or 2-2. I want it different. What do you think? Do you know what? I'll go 2-0. I don't think Everton will score in that game. Yeah, I'll go 2-0. Arsenal against West Brom. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Arsenal win. I think
I've gone 2-1.
Goals. 2-1.
Yeah,
Arsenal
I've gone 2-1.
to get more goals. Fulham against Burnley. This is what you're saying is a boring game. So what are you saying here, Half? 0-0?
No, I'm backing my man Dyche though, aren't I? 2-1 Burnley.
2-1 Burnley. Do you know what? I'll go the reverse. I'll go 2-1 Fulham. Fulham are trying to get out of relegation. And do you know what? No, I'll go 1-1. That's going to be a boring game. 1-1. I'll give them a goal each. 1-1. Final game of the weekend. Both of them playing their second game on Monday. Is this the Monday or this? This is the Tuesday game. This is the Tuesday.
Yes.
Obviously, there's more games on the Wednesday. Hopefully, we'll record before then. We might record before this game on the Tuesday, so we might not have the full results. I'm going to go for another. I'll go for a 2-1 Southampton win.
I've gone 3-2. I reckon it'd be goals galore. Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of results. I've gone for a lot of 2-1s. I think 2-1's a safe bet. I always think teams are going to win. I always think there's going to be a winner and both teams should score, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Yes.
2-1 Southampton to finish it off. And let's end the podcast there, shall we, Harv? And we'll talk about what we're going to talk about next week, see if we've got another guest coming on. Like I said, if we do in the future, it'll be someone that isn't named Deck, which
yeah.
will be surprising me. If not, I'm sure we'll have a great subject. But thanks for listening, guys. It's been a pleasure. And we'll catch you in the next one.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Later.